They glanced at my resume, then glanced at each other, and I knew I wasn't getting this job. It was the way their eyes met. Quick, subtle, but unmistakably dismissive. I'd seen that look before, many times in fact, since the day I stepped back into the workforce after 5 long years. 5 years that didn't look good on paper. 5 years that couldn't be quantified by KPIs or bullet points. I sat there with my hands clasped tightly in my lap, careful not to wrinkle the slacks I had ironed twice the night before. They were 3 years old, like most of my wardrobe now. My blouse was a soft blue, the same color my mother used to say, brought out my eyes, the same mother I had cared for until the very end. Across from me sat a woman named Nina, early 30s, sharp bob, perfect posture, and a smile that felt more like a dare than a welcome. Beside her was Jason, the CEO, tall, tan, late 40s, dressed in the kind of business casual that screamed effortless authority. He had that Silicon Valley look about him, expensive shoes worn sockless, and a smartwatch that probably cost more than my entire outfit. So, Nina said, flipping through the pages of my resume without really looking Claire Hayes. "You've been out of the industry since 2018, I nodded. "That's right. I took time off to care for my mother. She was a caregiver role." Jason interrupted, offering a sympathetic half-smile. "That's important work, but not very dynamic, I suppose." I felt my spine straighten instinctively. It taught me patience, time, management, empathy, and how to navigate complicated systems. "Medical insurance is no joke," Nina offered a tight-lipped smile. "We appreciate your honesty, we really do. It's just, well, we're a fast-paced agency. Clients expect things yesterday. We run lean and move quickly. We need people who can jump right in." I bit the inside of my cheek. I knew this dance I'd been through 6 interviews in 2 months. Always polite, always professional, always the same song and dance. "Claire," Jason said, tapping his pen against his knee, "look, I'll be frank with you. Your experience is solid. It really is. But tech has evolved. The client landscape has shifted. We're not saying you couldn't adapt, we're just not sure you'd want to." "I want to," I said clearly, "and I've kept up with market trends. I've consulted part-time. I even took online certifications to stay current. I'm not asking for special treatment, I'm just asking for a chance." They exchanged another look. Jason leaned back. "All right, here's what we can do. We're short-staffed this week. One of our junior associates is out sick. We need an extra pair of hands. It's a temporary assignment, 1 week, no benefits, entry-level pay. Think of it as a trial." I could feel my stomach turn. A trial. After 15 years as a senior account manager, I was being offered an intern slot. But I smiled because I'd learned, especially in the last few years, that dignity wasn't about what you were given, it was about what you chose to do with it. "I'll take it," I said. Nina blinked, clearly surprised. "Great, we'll get you set up with a badge and temporary credentials. Our HR assistant will walk you through everything." I stood, shook their hands, and thanked them. Jason's handshake was limp. Nina's was cold. I left the room and waited in the lobby for a full 20 minutes before a young man with headphones slung around his neck came to retrieve me. "Hey, I'm Zach. I'll show you to your desk." We walked in silence past rows of glass offices and open-plan cubicles filled with 20-somethings tapping away on MacBooks. Everyone wore sneakers, drank cold brew, and talked in acronyms I hadn't heard before. I caught snippets of conversation: API, integration, client, churn, influencer, pipeline. Zach led me to a desk in the far back, right beside the copy machine. No phone, no computer, just a stack of paper and a dying plant. "This is yours," he said. "Someone will bring over some stuff for you to sort." "Great," I replied with as much cheer as I could fake. He left. I sat. The chair squeaked. At 10:30, someone dropped off a pile of outdated client folders and told me to reorganize them by sector. I wasn't given a directory or a rubric, just paper staples and a highlighter. By lunchtime, my back was sore and my fingers covered in paper cuts. I went to the break room and sat alone with the turkey sandwich I had made that morning. Around me, young professionals buzzed with gossip about office politics and a high-stakes account that was on the verge of collapse. The Walter Green account. That name struck a bell deep in my chest. Walter was difficult, a high-value, high-maintenance client. He hated buzzwords, hated change, but he loved results and loyalty. Years ago, I had worked with him personally, kept him with the firm, through 2 mergers and a near PR crisis. I sipped my coffee and kept listening. Apparently, Walter was unhappy. He'd threatened to walk last week. The new team didn't understand him, didn't respect his preferences. He felt neglected, underappreciated. I watched a group of associates laugh about it, like it was a joke. After lunch, I went back to my sad little corner and dug through the folders again. And there it was. A 5-year-old strategy doc with my initials on it. Walter's name at the top, notes in my handwriting. I stared at it like it was a message from a past life. They didn't know I had history with him. They didn't ask. They didn't care, but I cared. I stayed late that night, long after the others had left. I made notes. I built a plan. I reread everything I could find about the current team's approach and saw exactly where they were going wrong. No one had given me permission to fix anything. No one had even bothered to tell me what was going on. But that didn't mean I couldn't act. I took the offer, but I wasn't here to be pitied. I was here to be remembered. On my first day, they handed me a broken printer and a box of expired client folders. I had to blink to make sure I heard right. The box looked like it hadn't been touched in years. Dust clung to its corners like it belonged in an attic, not a modern consultancy firm. The printer groaned as someone kicked it and said, "Maybe you can figure out what's wrong with it." I don't know, paper jam maybe. That was the welcome no tour, no onboarding, no name badge, no email login, just an outdated desk in the farthest corner of the office, and a sense that everyone was more annoyed by my presence than curious about it. I sat down slowly, my chair wobbling under me. A broken wheel. How symbolic my view was of the hallway trash can and the occasional back of an intern who came to grab more printer paper. No one looked at me directly. It was as if I'd entered some kind of office purgatory, too experienced to be mentored, too outdated to be trusted. Still, I got to work. I cleared the jam in the printer with a butter knife I found in the staff kitchen drawer. I labeled the folders with fresh tabs. Some of the account names I recognized from years ago. Others were long dead, absorbed by mergers or swallowed by competitors. A few had red stickers that read, "Do not contact," always a great sign. The tasks were simple, mechanical. They didn't require much thought, but my mind wasn't idle. I listened. Every time someone passed, every casual conversation near the kitchenette, every hushed tone in the conference room with glass walls. I paid attention. No one noticed me, which meant I heard everything. By midweek, a name kept coming up, Walter Green. That name hit me like a splash of cold water. Walter had once been one of my most high-maintenance clients and one of the most loyal. He was demanding, detail-oriented, borderline, impossible to please. But once you earned his trust, he'd back you for life. Apparently, the team was losing him. I heard a girl named Sophie say he hadn't returned their emails in 2 days. A junior associate joked that Walter probably didn't know how to use Google Meet. The entire table laughed. I didn't. Walter may have been old school, but he wasn't clueless. He just didn't like to be treated like a number. He liked real people, conversations. He liked knowing that the person talking to him actually read his company's annual report, not just the executive summary. I returned to my desk and opened an old folder labeled Archive, Green. Inside was a single printed email thread, one I had written years ago, regarding a holiday campaign that saved his brand from tanking during a product recall. I had worked nights on that project. We spoke on the phone every day for 2 weeks. I remembered the way he paused when he said thank you, like it hurt to admit he needed help. And now here I was, the only person in the office who had ever worked directly with him, and I was invisible. That afternoon, Nina walked past my desk with 2 interns following behind her like ducklings. She didn't even glance at me. I looked at my reflection in the black screen of the idle monitor. I didn't look the part. Maybe my blouse was a little outdated. My shoes weren't designer. My resume lacked keywords and certifications that made recruiters feel safe, but I knew Walter, and more importantly, I knew what he needed right now. The current team had tried to modernize his communication pipeline. They switched his reports to automated dashboards. They assigned a brand new rep who spoke mostly in buzzwords and started every sentence with honestly. Walter must have felt insulted, abandoned, and if I knew anything about him, it was that he didn't forget slights easily. On Thursday morning, I caught Howard Tran, one of the junior analysts, by the coffee machine. He was the only one who had smiled at me since day one. "Rough week?" I asked. He sighed. "Yeah. We're scrambling on Green. Jason's freaking out. Do you have access to his full file?" Howard chuckled. "I wish Nina locked it down after last week's call. I think she's trying to control the narrative." "What narrative is that?" "That we didn't screw it up." I hesitated. I worked with him. Years ago, I still remember his voice. Howard raised an eyebrow. "Seriously, I was the senior on his first campaign here, back when this place had 5 people in folding chairs." His eyes widened. "Wow. So, you think you could help?" I smiled. "Maybe. But I'd need a meeting with him alone." "Yeah. Good luck getting Nina to approve that." I didn't respond, because I already knew I wouldn't ask for permission. That night, I stayed late again. The office emptied out by 6. I watched the cleaning crew arrive, wheeling their carts past my desk without a word. The hum of the HVAC system was the only company I had. I pulled up Walter's old notes. His assistant's name. Laurie was still listed in my contacts from years ago. I drafted a short, respectful email. "Hi, Laurie. I hope this finds you well. This is Claire Hayes. We worked together with Mr. Green back in 2016. I'm currently working with Vanguard again, and was wondering if Mr. Green might be open to a brief chat. Just 15 minutes, I believe. I can offer some helpful insight. Warm regards, Claire." I stared at the send button. This was probably breaking protocol, but I wasn't here to color inside the lines. I clicked. They didn't want my help, but Walter might. It had been 7 years, but I still remembered how Walter Green took his coffee, half and half no sugar, 1 stir counterclockwise. He claimed clockwise made it bitter. He was odd that way, particular, but that particularity had built an empire, and I had learned to respect it. Laurie responded to my email first thing Friday morning. I was standing by the copier when the notification lit up my phone. "Mr. Green remembers you fondly. He'll be at the Claymore Hotel downtown this afternoon for a conference. He can spare 15 minutes at 4 p.m. That was it. No small talk. Classic Laurie. I glanced around. Nina wasn't in yet. Jason had stepped out for his standing meeting with the partners. Nobody had noticed me as usual. I tapped out a reply with a shaky thumb. "Thank you, Laurie. I'll be there at 3:45. I spent the rest of the morning preparing, not with slides or graphs, but with memory. I revisited our past campaign files, his tone in old emails, his firm's latest quarterly reports. I wasn't going in to impress him with jargon. I was going to listen. At 3:20, I left my badge at the front desk and walked out like any other contractor, finishing the day early. No one stopped me. The Claymore Hotel was exactly how I remembered it. Polished brass elevators, leather lounge chairs, a lobby bar that smelled faintly of orange peel and cedar. I arrived at the cafe corner, the one where Walter liked to sit near the window, and ordered 2 coffees. One for me, one for him, just the way he liked it. He appeared at 3:58 sharp. "Ms. Hayes," he said, with that gravel-smooth voice of his. Still early. I stood and offered my hand. Always. He didn't smile, but his eyes softened slightly. He adjusted his cufflink and accepted the coffee like it was a sacred ritual. We talked. Not business at first. We talked about the weather in Austin, about how the city had changed, about a mutual friend in Chicago who recently retired. Then the subject shifted, as I knew it would. "They've been treating me like some kind of outdated relic," Walter said, setting his cup down with a clink. "Last week, their junior rep sent me a pitch deck that looked like a TikTok ad." I nodded. "I've seen it." His eyebrows rose. "Have you? I've been working in-house for Vanguard this past week. Contract basis. Quiet corner, no desk nameplate." "Typical," he muttered. "I noticed some issues with the direction they're taking. It's not aligned with what I remember of your firm's values." "And what would those be?" he asked. "Precision, consistency, respect for legacy, but most importantly, relationships." Walter stared at me for a moment. "They sent me a kid named Jeff who didn't know the difference between gross margin and markup, then tried to sell me an influencer partnership with someone who reviews sneakers on YouTube." I tried not to wince. "That doesn't sound like your brand, you think," he said dryly. Then more softly, "Why did you reach out, Claire?" I paused, honest. "Because I didn't like how it felt to sit quietly while they risked losing you, and because I remember what it was like to be listened to. I figured you might feel the same." He leaned back, fingers steepled. For a long time, he said nothing. The cafe buzzed around us. I could hear the espresso machine hissing in the background. My pulse thudded in my ears. "You know what I remember most about working with you," he finally said. "You didn't try to impress me. You tried to understand me." "That's all I ever tried," I said. He nodded slowly. "I'm cancelling the Monday meeting with their current team. It's a waste of time. I'll give them one more chance, but only if you're the one leading the conversation." I blinked, "Walter." "I'm not." "You're not officially anything, I know, but that's their problem, not mine." He stood, took one last sip, and buttoned his jacket. "If they want my business, they'll deal with you, not Nina, not Jason, you." He turned and walked away, leaving me alone with my coffee and my heart hammering against my ribs. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But I knew one thing. Get me her, only her, or the deal is off. By the time they realized I was missing, I was already halfway through my second meeting with Walter. It was early Monday morning, and I had arrived at the Claymore Hotel again 10 minutes before Walter. The same table by the window, the same coffee, half and half, no sugar counterclockwise, stir. The only thing different was that I wasn't nervous anymore. Walter had emailed me late Friday night after our meeting, a copy of the pitch deck the team sent him. I opened it and cringed. Animated slides, vague promises, trendy buzzwords, everything Walter hated. He wanted substance. This was fluff, so I spent my weekend rebuilding the pitch from scratch. No fancy visuals, just a simple PDF black text, white background. Real numbers, straight talk. I structured it around what I knew mattered to him. Historical performance, sustainable growth, brand trust, client retention strategies. I worked until 2:00 a.m. Sunday night and arrived Monday with printouts, not a tablet. When Walter sat down, he didn't say hello. He just looked at the packet. I slid across the table, flipped through a few pages, and then gave a satisfied grunt. "This," he said, "is what I expect from a firm that says they know me." "I thought so," I replied. "I included a comparison chart on page 6 between your legacy campaign and what they've been proposing." He paused there and actually chuckled. "You're savage, no?" "Walter, I'm honest." He liked that, I could tell. We spent the next hour walking through the key parts of the revised strategy. I listened to his concerns, made margin notes based on his input, and rewrote a line on page 4 right there on the table with a pen. "No. Edits later. No. We'll get back to you. Just action." At 10:15, his assistant Laurie walked over with his next meeting reminder. Walter waved her off. "Reschedule it." She raised an eyebrow. "It's with the Chamber of Commerce," I said. "Reschedule." Laurie left without another word. That's how I knew Walter trusted me. Meanwhile, back at the office, Jason and Nina were growing increasingly agitated. My phone had 6 missed calls from HR and 2 emails marked urgent. I ignored them. At 11:05, I finally called back. Nina picked up with a voice that tried to sound calm but cracked at the edges. "Claire, where are you? You're supposed to be on site today." "I'm with Walter," I said. There was a long silence. "You mean Mr. Green?" "Yes, he requested me, without approval. I didn't need it. He made it clear he only wants to speak to me. I could hear Jason in the background. Put her on speaker, I did, Claire. He said, you're not authorized to represent Vanguard. Then you're about to lose the client who pays a third of your annual revenue, I said flatly. More silence. Walter reached across the table and took the phone from me. Jason, he said calmly, I'm going to give you one chance to listen carefully. Claire is the only reason I haven't taken my business elsewhere. If you want my signature on the Q3 renewal, she's the only person I'll be dealing with. Another pause. Then he handed me back the phone and said, You might want to mute it. I did. Thank you, Walter, I said softly. He waved it off like I'd offered him sugar in his coffee. At noon, we stood to leave. He put a hand on my shoulder and looked me in the eye. I don't care what title they give you, he said, but they damn well better give you one. I smiled. Back at the office, the mood had changed. People actually looked up when I walked in. Zach offered me a bottle of water. Riley said nice work under her breath. And Jason waited until I was at my desk before approaching Claire. He said we'd like to talk. I stood. Your office or mine? I asked. He blinked. Excuse me. I gestured around at the empty cubicles. Oh wait, I don't have one. He gave a tight laugh, clearly not amused. I'll be in conference room B, I said. Give me 10. I walked away before he could respond. She's not just back. She just saved your job, Jason. They sent me flowers and a bonus check after ignoring me for days. The flowers arrived at my desk in a clear glass vase, pink and yellow lilies, arranged carefully around some bright green eucalyptus. They looked expensive. The note was typed, not handwritten. It said, Thank you for your outstanding contribution to client retention. No signature, no warmth. The check came in a sealed envelope delivered by HR. It was labeled, Discretionary Gratitude Payment. I didn't even know such a phrase existed. Until that moment, I stared at the number generous for a week's work by their standards, but not for what I'd done. They had given me a bonus for saving their company, for fixing their mistake, for stepping up where they had failed, and now they were trying to tie it off with money and a bouquet. That morning, I walked into the building and felt eyes on me for the first time. Subtle stares from people who'd previously passed me, like I was invisible. The barista downstairs gave me a free refill. Howard from accounting gave me a respectful nod and whispered, Nice work. I smiled back, grateful but wary. I'd seen this kind of office pivot before. One week you're overlooked, the next you're the miracle story until someone newer, louder, or shinier comes along. At noon, I received an invitation, a meeting with Jason, Nina, and 2 board advisors, conference room A, 200 p.m. The title of the invite said, Strategic Planning Follow-Up. I knew what that meant. It was time for them to offer me something to make it official, tidy, manageable, the way companies like to do. I arrived early. The room was bright with sunlight pouring through the windows, casting long lines across the oak table. Bottled water, an untouched tray of shortbread cookies, and 4 identical black leather chairs. Jason and Nina were already seated when I walked in. Claire. Jason said, standing to shake my hand. Thanks for coming. Nina offered a nod. We really appreciate everything you've done. I waited until everyone was seated again. We've prepared a formal offer. Nina continued sliding a folder across the table toward me. We'd love to bring you on full-time as a senior associate in the Client Success Division, competitive salary, full benefits, 5 weeks PTO, and a performance review at 6 months. I didn't touch the folder. That's kind of you, I said. Jason leaned forward, sensing hesitation. We can revisit title structure later. The important thing is, we want you here. I looked at him squarely. You've already seen what I can do. We have, he nodded quickly, and it's impressive, but we also have a team dynamic to manage. Promotion. Take time. I'm not asking for a promotion, I said. I'm asking for recognition that matches the job I've already done. Nina blinked Claire. We're offering a great package. You're offering a compromise, one that protects your internal ladder, one that lets you say, you fix the green problem while I disappear into the system. Jason's jaw twitched. That's not our intention. I opened the folder, slowly flipped through the pages. My eyes landed on the title, Senior Associate Client Success. I'm not an associate. Not anymore. Walter didn't ask for an associate. He asked for me. A long silence settled in. The older board advisor finally spoke. What would be acceptable to you? Hulse, Strategic Client Advisor. Lead capacity. With authority to oversee legacy accounts, I want my own small team by Q2, and I want a signed acknowledgement that I'll be looped into high-risk accounts moving forward. Jason exchanged glances with Nina. That's a large ask. No, I said calmly. It's exactly right size for what I've already done. Nina leaned back. We'll need time to consider. You have until end of business today. Jason raised a brow. Are you setting deadlines now? I am, I said, because Walter Green already left me a voicemail asking if I'd consider building out a client services wing at his own firm. If I say yes, he walks. The room went still. I stood. I'll give you until 5. That burned. Outside the conference room, the air felt lighter. I passed Howard again, who raised his eyebrows as if to ask how it went. I smiled. We'll see. He grinned. You're kind of a legend right now. I'm not here to be a legend, I said. I'm here to make sure people like me stop being overlooked. That afternoon, I returned to my desk and found someone had moved me to an actual workstation. Still no nameplate, but at least I had a phone and a computer. Now, I logged in for the first time and saw a new email account assigned to me, chayes@vanguardstrategy.com. Progress. Maybe. At 4:30, I received a message from Jason's assistant. The executive team has finalized their decision. Please meet us in conference room A at 4:45. I stood brushed off my blazer and glanced at my reflection in the window. For the first time in a long time, I liked what I saw. Not perfect, not polished, but unshakably sure. I headed toward the hallway. If you want me to stay, I don't want a seat at the table. I want my name on the table. They once said my resume wasn't impressive, but now it's framed in their lobby. I saw it this morning, in the glass case by the elevators, where they usually displayed press mentions and team awards. My old, unimpressive 2-page resume. Still formatted in Times New Roman. Still with the 5-year gap. Still without a single line about tech stack fluency or agile certifications. Just the truth. Years of building trust, managing relationships, and knowing how to read people before they spoke, and under it, a small bronze plaque. Claire Hayes, Strategic Client Advisor, proof that wisdom doesn't always come with buzzwords. That was Jason's idea, surprisingly. The day after our final meeting, they gave me exactly what I asked for. Not begrudgingly, not out of fear, but I think out of recognition, maybe even respect. Jason shook my hand with a steadier grip. Nina gave me a nod that wasn't cold, and the board advisor, who'd stayed quiet during most of the meeting, said only one thing to me as I signed the contract. We should have known better. My new office was modest, tucked away near the client services wing. It wasn't the corner space with floor-to-ceiling windows, but it had a door that closed a desk with drawers and a whiteboard already filled with client strategies. I couldn't wait to try. They even gave me a small team. Howard plus 2 new hires. I got to pick myself. That first week in the new role, I didn't do anything flashy. I met with existing accounts. I asked more questions than I gave answers. I sat in meetings and listened. I trained my team to slow down, to stop overselling, to build something called professional patience. And people noticed. Walter sent a bottle of wine and a handwritten note. You're the reason I stayed. Don't let them forget that. He included a PS. Let me know when you're ready to build something of your own. I tucked that into my top drawer, not ready to reply, but not ready to throw it away either. By the end of the quarter, our client retention numbers were the highest they'd been in 2 years. Not because of a rebrand, not because of a new CRM platform, but because we stopped chasing what looked shiny and started doubling down on what made people stay. Real connection, experience, follow through. One morning, Nina asked me to speak at a new hire orientation. 5 minutes, she said, on what it means to serve clients with heart. I almost declined, but then I thought about that younger version of me, sitting in interviews with nothing but truth on paper and courage in her eyes. The one who kept getting passed over because she wasn't packaged the right way. I stood at the front of the room in front of 30 new employees, all wearing crisp name badges and eager expressions. "I'm Claire," I began. "Some of you may have heard my name floating around lately." A few laughed softly. When I first applied to Vanguard, I didn't think I'd even get a call back. My resume had a 5-year gap. I had no trendy job titles, no fancy tech certifications. What I had was experience and a history of showing up when it mattered. I paused. None of that was on paper, but it's why I'm standing here now. A silence settled in, not awkward but intentional, like they were actually hearing me. When you look at someone's resume, remember, you're not hiring their formatting, you're hiring their fight. The room nodded. That evening, I passed by the lobby and caught 2 interns pointing at my framed resume. "Wait, that's her." I didn't stop, I didn't smile. I just kept walking, heels, clicking across the tile, like punctuation marks on the story. I never needed to rewrite. I never changed my resume. I just made them look closer. Sometimes the greatest qualifications aren't listed on a resume. They're written in years of sacrifice, resilience, and quiet strength. Claire's story reminds us that value can't always be measured in bullet points or trendy job titles. In a world obsessed with youth and speed, there's power in experience and deep listening, and in showing up when it matters most. We must never underestimate those who've lived, learned, and endured, because when the pressure's on, it's not the flashiest voice that saves the day. It's the steady hand that's been there before.